Today's episode is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible is a seller and producer of spoken audio entertainment, information, and educational programming on the internet. Audible sells digital audiobooks, radio and TV programs, and audio versions of magazines and newspapers. To start using Audible today, please visit their website at www.audible.com. That's www.audible.com.
So sorry for the interruption, but we have a quick announcement. We've just put together a quick app to consolidate past and upcoming episodes of this show. To download the app, simply use your cell phone camera to scan the QR code on the screen. Then, simply add the app to your home screen for easy access and a better experience.
Welcome to another episode of Taking You to the Top. In this podcast, Rami spends time speaking with founders and CEOs from across the globe and asks them specific questions to learn exactly how they launched their businesses. Before we get started with today's guest, please follow Rami's Instagram account so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. If you'd like to watch previous episodes, simply click on Rami's IGTV section or scan the QR code at the beginning of this video to download the app. If you'd like to get more information and analytics about each guest, simply visit the podcast website at takingyoutoTheTop.cf. Now, let me spend a moment to introduce today's guest before Rami gets started. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of Conant Leadership. Conant Leadership is a mission-driven community of leaders and learners who are championing leadership that works in the 21st century. Join Rami in welcoming him to the show. If you have any questions for our guest today, please leave them in the comments section below. That being said, we hope you enjoy today's episode. Without further ado, are you ready to take it to the top?
A few moments later.
Doug, welcome to episode 17 of Taking You to the Top. To get us started, if you wouldn't mind, maybe take us back from the beginning. Tell us where you're from, where you started your journey, and how that led you to becoming the founder of your company.
Okay, in 25 words or less?
As many words as you like.
No. First of all, it's a pleasure to be with you. And my story, I can make it a long story. I will make it a short story. I grew up outside of the city of Chicago, and in a small village, and I went to high school there. I went to college and graduate school at Northwestern University and the Kellogg School of Management as part of Northwestern University. I went straight through. I graduated when I was 24. I went on to work for 4 food companies over the course of my over 40-year career. And we'll talk about how it started, which was very bumpy. But ultimately, I went on to become president of Nabisco Foods, president and CEO of Campbell Soup Company, and then chairman of Avon Products. And when I retired from all that, I founded my company, Conant Leadership, which is all about championing leadership that works in the 21st century. Most of the practices of the 20th century are useful, but they are insufficient. So I'm trying to contribute to the conversation as we try and find new, more enlightened ways to lead in this century. So that's my story in a nutshell.
So Conant Leadership, who are your clients?
First of all, I founded the organization and I take no salary. I have 5 people that work for me full-time now. We charge enough from some teaching work I do and from speaking engagements to cover the cost of the staff. And then typically we make more than that, and then we give that away to like-minded nonprofit organizations that need help. So that's our model. We really don't have we don't do consulting in the traditional sense. I talk to lots of people and provide advice, but I don't charge for it. I'm just trying to be helpful. So that's a sort of a crazy business model. but I've done reasonably well in my career so that I can afford to have this model, and having an opportunity to pay forward all of the good fortune I had as I slogged through 40 years in the corporate arena.
Sure. So just to summarize that part, the only income or the funds that are running the company are only from the speaking engagements.
Speaking engagements and teaching. I run boot camps and a few other things where I lead people through a process that I've developed over 20 years to help lift their leadership to new heights. It's just chronicled in a new book I released. I launched it on March 5th at a book event on Park Avenue in New York. And on March 6th, we canceled the rest of the tour because of the pandemic. So
wow.
It's not a good time to launch a book into the teeth of a global pandemic.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So I guess this company, since it's being funded by yourself,
Yeah.
when you started the company, what was the marketing channel, or how did you spread the word, or was it because of the network that you created over the 40 years?
My persona was fairly prominent in the United States business community. I had been chairman of a large industry association. I had been chairman of the conference board in New York. I was chairman of an organization called CECP, which has 220 Fortune 500 CEOs as members. I had written a New York Times best-selling book. I had been associated with real success in two prior companies. So I had a persona that was sufficient to get us off the ground. And I leveraged that. And quite frankly, social media was a foreign concept to me because I'm an old guy. I may not be a dinosaur, but I'm still a Neanderthal. And so I can remember when we had our first 100 followers on Facebook and Twitter, and we don't promote ourselves really. All we do is just try and promote the conversation around enlightened leadership for the 21st century. And, we slowly over 7 years now built up a general following of about over 400,000 people that are talking about this stuff every day. And that creates a platform for us to do other things as well. But that's all basically no cost, other than some people who help me administer it.
Sure. I mean, this is one part that I find either it takes a very, through time and through your network, you can very quickly launch a company versus someone who's just maybe starting his journey now. The process, I guess, is completely different.
Well, absolutely. And, it wasn't that I actually had a plan. I was in a near fatal car accident in 2009, and I stayed on as CEO for another 2 years at my company, but it was time. I had been a CEO there for 11 years, and it was time for me to move on and do other things. Plus, I had some more surgeries involved, so I took some time off. And then when I was healthy again, I started to get re-engaged in the corporate world and didn't really have a plan. But I had established a reputation over time that was useful. And so I decided to leverage that and pursue my passion, which was helping people figure out how can I lead a little better tomorrow than I did today? Because one thing we know is tomorrow will always be more challenging than today was. So so I just sort of followed my people. What do they say? They say, find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
And so this is what I love doing. And I must say, I am working at it right now as I'm trying to reimagine it in a virtual world. But I find that interesting too.
For sure. So this next section is about problems that can be solved. The audience of this podcast is mostly entrepreneurs just starting, all the way to accomplished CEOs like yourself, who may be able to, maybe through answering the following questions, come up with a persistent problem maybe that you're facing in the last few weeks, let's say, that maybe somebody just starting their journey or don't have an idea yet can maybe give it a shot at solving that specific kind of problem.
Yeah.
So I guess
I have two problems. I launched a book right into a global pandemic, had to shut that down. I'm trying to find a way to revitalize that book virtually. I also had speaking engagements planned in person, which have all been shut down. I'm trying to reinvent that virtually. I also teach personally. These are my sources of income. I also teach in places where I am paid, and all those teaching engagements have been shut down, and I'm trying to reinvent my teaching virtually. So obviously my theme is, how do I reimagine my operation in a virtual way? And I'm using social media. I'm participating in many more of these podcasts than I probably ever would have, to reach more people, to talk about my philosophy and my book, The Blueprint, and also to provide some help to people as they're going through this pandemic experience. But our challenge is really, how do we advance our profile and contribute even more, be more helpful to people in a virtual world than we were in the old world, which was more high touch. Now I'm trying to bring high touch virtually. And the exciting thing is I'm reaching more people, many, many, many more people.
Okay.
But I'm trying to find ways to engineer the high touch piece into this, so that it's more than just a talking head on a screen, trying to help somebody find their way through things. So it's an interesting dilemma. That's my challenge.
So actually, what are you using at the moment, or since the pandemic started? Has it been more like a Zoom sort of conference?
I live on Zoom. And in my home office, we've migrated over to Teams on Microsoft.
Okay.
And that's actually facilitating better interaction and better communication for my team, because we're all spread out. And Teams is working nicely for Microsoft. Zoom is the platform for all of these things and all my speaking engagements right now. It will be fascinating to see how this marketplace transforms itself over the next 2 years with new technologies. But Zoom is my technology now.
So Zoom is good up to a point, until you want to get very personal with your community, or personal with whoever you're teaching. Yeah. It's missing that element, I guess.
It's missing that element. And what I'm doing with Zoom, that I'm planning to do with Zoom, we're actually moving to a virtual teaching situation in October. We're creating that capacity to smartly move in and out of small working groups, from the large group to small working groups, connecting groups together to solve issues and address things in real time during the course of the teaching. And that's what we're attempting to do in order to make this a little more conversational, because you can't do it otherwise. And so that's how we're trying to make it more interactive. We're also trying to, we're having meetings in advance of meetings to set the table so people can actually know each other personally
Before
that
the
I'm
main.
teaching before we go to class. And we're saying, okay, you're going to be in a work group of 4. We'd like to recommend you 4 get together. Here are the questions you should answer, and you should have your conversation and really get to know each other before you ever come to class. And they're 4 people who are at comparable levels in organizations, and have maybe some similar functional interests. Let's say they're all interested in technology or global supply chain or marketing. And we put them in these groups and we try and help them prosper before they ever come to class, so that by the time we come to class, they can't wait to see each other again and to meet the other groups. So we're trying to reimagine how all this will work. And it's interesting, but it's a challenge. And I haven't seen anybody do it particularly brilliantly yet, but I don't know, the virtual world is filled with things I don't know about. So anyway.
I think, from the way you explained it, it absolutely makes sense, but it may be a very manual process to get all of that set up and have people come out of the main group and discuss and come back. So
we've done it.
Definitely.
I've done it in some test case. We've done it in some other organizations where I'm on the board. So I've seen how it works, and we're just trying to use it, be as fluent about the technology as we can be, get as much out of it as we can, knowing that today it's limited and it'll probably be much better a year or 2 from now. We just have to be as good as what's out there now, so that we're fully competitive with anybody else.
Sure. Okay, Doug, if you wouldn't mind, I have this section called the Famous 5. Basically, it's just a bunch of quick fire questions to learn more about you personally. So number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Actually, it's
other than your own.
Actually, it's the one that had the most profound influence on me was written by Stephen Covey, and it was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It wasn't positioned as a business book, but it helped me on my leadership journey more than any other book I've ever read.
Okay. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
I have 3 that are, I have 42 people who work for me have gone on to be CEOs.
Okay.
And I love all of them, but I'm not going to mention any of them right now. So it's just a disclaimer. I have 3 that I'm really following with interest now. Satya Nadella from Microsoft, and Tim Cook from Apple, 2 technology-oriented companies, and a woman by the name of Beth Ford from Land O'Lakes. It's a food company. It's a $15 billion food company. She's the first openly gay woman to run a Fortune 500 company. I've had a chance to meet her and speak to her company. It's a really cool company, and I'm seeing how she's pioneering. And interestingly, 2 of the 3 are gay, Tim Cook and Beth Ford. Satya Nadella has a disabled child, and I'm on the National Organization of Disabilities as a board member, and he's actually partnering with us to do some special things. Fantastic. So what I see these people doing, these leaders doing, is they're leading their companies, they're making sure their corporate strategies are right, but they're advancing their cultures and their social responsibility in ways that I think is quite healthy. So I love the way they're creating both economic and social value.
Sure. Sorry, the last CEO you mentioned, Beth Ford. What was the name of the company? Land O'Lakes?
Land O'Lakes, Lakes.
Okay.
It's an amazing food company that was run by actually someone who used to work for me who became a CEO. So this is his successor.
Perfect. And number 3, what would you say is your favorite online tool for growing your business? I'm assuming Zoom.
Zoom, but we have a lot of conversation going on LinkedIn, on social media, with with the appropriate talent base. We're also in Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, but for my corporate communications, LinkedIn is useful.
Number 4, if you could give your 20-year-old self a piece of advice, what would that be?
Conan O'Brien, he's a late night host, television host here in the United States. He said something that has always stuck with me. Work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen. That's what I would tell. Be kind, and amazing things will happen. I don't think there's any substitute for hard work. And if you attack it with a kind spirit, you will win people over and you will galvanize groups to do amazing things. So I think that's a formula. It's not a quick win formula, but I think quick wins are few and far between, and they don't last too long. Sure. So I'm more of building things of enduring value, and that's how I think you do it. And that's what I would tell myself, and I would pay more attention to it when I was 20.
And number 5, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
6 to 8. I think you have to. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Right. We actually had there's a famous sleep doctor from Cornell who was the most famous sleep doctor of his time in the United States. He was actually on the Oprah show talking about how you sleep. We had him come talk to our team, and he challenged us to get our sleep because we couldn't lead effectively without it. So I'm pretty religious about that, pretty disciplined.
I mean, 6 is 6 enough?
No, but that's why I said 6 to 8. But, we have days where we have to work late and get up early. But in the fullness of time, I find 7 or 8 is enough. 6 is pushing it, but I can do 6. I'm an early riser, so I can go to bed at 10 and get up at 4 in my time. It's sort of, and I can't do that every day, but I can do that.
Definitely. Okay, Doug, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sorry for taking up part of your lunch break.
Well, I'm happy to do it, and I admire the fact that the pioneering work you're trying to do with your work, and I wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Take care.
Today's episode is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible is a seller and producer of spoken audio entertainment, information, and educational programming on the internet. Audible sells digital audiobooks, radio and TV programs, and audio versions of magazines and newspapers. To start using Audible today, please visit their website at www.audible.com. That's www.audible.com.